Geek Tank Radio, News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Welcome to Geek Tank Radio on News Talk 98.9. I'm Alan Gilbert, sitting here with the infamous Brandon Olmsted. And Brandon, who did you bring in?
I brought in the amazing Mr. Robert.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's the amazing Mr. Robert here with my sidekick, Squirt, today from the adventures of Tadpole and Squirt. Want to say hi, Squirt?
Adorable does not begin to cover. We're outclassed, Brandon. We just need to give up.
We honestly do not have an English word for how awesome she is.
Squirt is. That's true.
It's just true.
That's all there is to it. Yeah. And she's grinning at us like it's about time.
Uh-huh. That's right. Recognize me, people. I'm in charge.
Well, Brandon, you and I have been chatting all day today, and it's like our season.
It really is. It's like it's fall. We're coming up on the what would actually be the end of a normal convention season, but it's been the not.
That's all I can say for it.
But it's like the weather's changing. We're getting closer to Halloween. Mm-hmm. There's a full moon coming. You can feel that.
We're going to have a lunar eclipse of conventions.
Just
appear for a moment.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that. That's a really that's deep.
Why, thank you.
I'm glad I'm wearing my boots.
But it's been a while since we had a convention, so it's like all of a sudden we get a glip in, and then they're saying there's all new outbreaks. So let's see how long it lasts. Maybe it's just an eclipse.
Yeah. But it's like I want to go ahead and give people an update real quick on the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention. We are still monitoring everything that's going on. We're hearing that there's possibility of outbreak declines, but we're going to stick with whatever the county mandates and the CDC guidelines are. We're going to have you a show unless they shut us down. There will be a show, but we will be making sure that it is safe for our staff as well as you guys. We want to make sure that you can come and have a good time without too much of a worry. And of course, we will be wrapping up Sunday at the EMCFC with Mr. Roberts, Let's Make a Deal. Mm-hmm. It is a staple. It is probably one of the best attended things we have. It is always a full house. And he's here today, not just to tell us about what's going on with that, but get us prepared for geek nostalgia.
Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am proud to say that this year we're going to go above and beyond, due to the fact that little Squirt here is battling leukemia. So we're going to dedicate this year's show to her, and we're putting up all new items, most of them unknown of. So with Miss Bertha's passing, we have pulled things out of my personal and her personal collection to put up this year. They will not be recognized until 3 weeks of the event. Photos will be posted then. But I can guarantee you some of these items will definitely even wow people from Marvel Comics.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say, he won't even show me. And usually it's like I go over to the shop and he goes, look what I got for Comic-Con this year. Look what I got for Let's Make a Deal this year. And he's hinting at things, but he's not showing me anything. So you can't torture me and get the answers either.
No, we can't show it yet.
All right. Yeah. Well, you said one of my favorite words, nostalgia.
Nostalgia.
This country has a 20-year ago worship.
Yes.
I remember when Happy Days came on, Happy Days was all about 20 years earlier.
Right.
The cars had changed, this had changed, that had changed. But let's face it, at some point in your geekdom, and I've got a question for both of you here.
Okay.
All
right. At some point in your geekdom, usually very, very early, something caught your attention. Just off the cuff. What was that?
All right, for nostalgia, correct?
Yes, we're setting the Wayback Machine.
All right.
Just one of those first things that caught your attention.
My first thing that started it all, started my entire indulgence. When I was little, we had went to the doctor, and I didn't want to go to the doctor. So my grandmother had bought me a comic book called Valley of the Dinosaurs. Cool nostalgia comic. Went ahead, went through my doctor visit, got a shot. 2 weeks later, my grandmother passed. but it was that inkling of, man, that comic, every comic I read would be another trigger and memory. So that flowed to a toy, that flowed to the next item, or any other little item that would take you back to when you was a child. So now when you walk in my store, the indulgence shows that I have collected what makes you a child again. Not just a memory.
Yeah.
But the whole feeling of something you sat down and played with, and you can remember that Christmas morning. You can remember the wish book, marking it with a crayon.
Scooby-Doo.
There you go.
Scooby-Doo. Then it was Batman. And then when I was a little bit older, Ninja Turtles. All three of those, every new iteration, I jump on. Because they do. They remind me of what it was like to be a kid. And while, like, Ninja Turtles is the best example, every generation has their version of Ninja Turtles. And they all change. But I can bond with kids over Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Scooby-Doo.
Excellent. Well, this is Geek Tank Radio on News Talk 98.9, and we're setting the Wayback Machine, so we're going to reminisce a little more right after this break.
Geek Tank Radio.
My son returns from a fancy East Coast college, and I'm horrified to find he's a nerd.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
This is Geek Tank Radio here on News Talk 98.9. This is Alan Gilbert sitting with Brandon Olmsted, and we have been joined by the amazing Mr. Robert. And we are talking a little bit about reminiscing. And my question was, what was that one little thing that first pebble that got tossed into the wishing well for you? And Brandon's going to go with Scooby-Doo. Mr. Robert is...
I'm definitely with Valley of the Dinosaurs.
Valley of the Dinosaurs?
Prince Planet.
Or Prince Planet.
Which a lot of folks will not remember, considering it was a cartoon in the early 60s.
I'll even throw in of growing up in Houston way back in the day when the Alaskan pipeline and all that stuff was being built.
Right.
And huge influx English, Irish, and Scottish people. And my first little taste of memorabilia geekdom was I had something nobody else had, or at least had access to. And that was a James Bond car, complete with the little spikes that pulled out of the wheels.
Mr. Robert's looking at you like, I got 3 of those.
He's going, I got 2 on the shelf right now. But, just remembering that far back as a kid, that first toy you were playing with or something that really stood out.
Yeah.
And, in my particular case, it was just this little James Bond car. Yeah. And like I said, we were clearing land on a facility not too long ago and digging up a big old ugly privet bush.
Right.
In the middle of this is this little glint of orange. So we dig around and I start playing with it. Nobody else cares. And I extract a cereal box premium from old Quake cereal. And it is the little flyer that has like the little spoon cap at the front and the little guy flying it. And of course, I'm the only one. I am literally the only one out of all these people gathered around. And they're all like, well, that's a weird looking toy. I'm like, oh, you don't remember the commercial where the guy was flying this and everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy. Yeah. So, welcome to those little moments. And today it includes video games.
Right.
I predate Pong. So.
Well,
You and me both.
I look at Mr. Robert and go, we were in the Othello days, when you turned rocks over.
Anybody who's ever played the Oregon Trail, these guys knew people who actually died of dysentery.
Yep.
Now, on this title of nostalgia items, we have to talk about the forgotten ones, from the paper dolls to the giveaways from Mary Kay Cosmetics. And a lot of people don't even know they exist.
Your Ovaltine decoder ring, or
Well, you would be how about your Three Stooges flash rings?
Yes.
You know, the early trading cards of stuff that would identify military planes, and you would think it was just a novelty when it was educational.
yeah.
You know, there was so much nostalgia that came around, especially during the Wish Book. A lot of people don't realize that it ain't always a toy that's the nostalgia or a movie poster.
Right.
Sometimes it's how you got it.
Yeah.
So Sears and Roebuck, the catalog, is one of the most nostalgic items in history.
Sit down and read in the 1890s.
You can get a 2-story house for $208.
And they would ship it to you by rail. And if it was a brick house, you got boxes of bricks.
Yes.
The original IKEA, how to build it yourself.
Yeah. $212. Got an ad down there at the shop.
Wow. I'm just sitting here looking at you guys and going, man, our listeners are like lost.
Well, you know,
So what we need to explain to them is what a catalog is. Apparently,
yep.
It's what online was before you had computers.
And you waited in the mail for 2 weeks to find out that wasn't what I ordered.
and let's just say catalogs at a certain period in history had multiple uses.
Well, I mean,
because toilet paper wasn't quite as plentiful as it is today.
But the Sears catalog was.
We can't talk about that. Joe's not here. We can't talk about bathrooms.
Just pointing out, catalog season was kind of a big deal for a few folks. Because you really think about the number of companies that were all about getting these catalogs out.
Right.
And probably the heyday of the catalog was what, 60s or 70s? Where was
when the Christmas toy corner came in the Sears catalog was in 1975.
Yeah, I was thinking it was about right around
it was
then.
right during Space 1999 and Star
Yes.
Wars coming
Yes.
in.
Yes.
Shogun Warriors debuted. The Mego toy clique had reached its limit to where they had Migos of Kiss, Migos of everybody, and they were looking for something to expand to, and along came the 3 3/4 inch bigger.
I'm going to go ahead and say, for those of you out there going, what's a Mego? Mego were cloth dolls of every licenses.
That was okay for a boy to have.
What's really weird is that if you want to talk about the number of licenses that Mego had, it's comparable to what Funko does now. You're always like, man, if there's something out there, Funko has a pop of it. Well, back in the day, Mego had a figure of it. And, you would find your Spider-Man next to your Batman. And back then, kids didn't care. Now, kids will fight over, Marvel versus DC.
Yeah.
Back then, you just, it's like you had all of them.
It was just cool.
And then they had Universal Monster ones, but they weren't really referred to as Universal Monsters at the time.
Well,
it was just
okay. Yeah. I remember a side product.
You're going to
still sticks out in my mind.
You're going to talk about the one that had the really weird ridged arms that did the hugging thing when you push the button on the back.
No. I'm going to go to
that was my favorite Wolfman figure ever.
The bubblegum company that made baseball cards.
Tops.
There was kind of a knockoff.
Oh, peachy.
And they did stills from famous monster movies with tacky comments.
Oh, let's go back. That's Tops.
And
they're called Monster Laughs.
Yes. My favorite one was the dramatic pose of the mummy looking dead into the camera. And the tacky comment was, who threw the mud ball?
Yeah.
Cracks me. I can still see
good old
this
Lon
card. and just, the crazy stuff that people made and put out. And we won't even get into like Disney licensing.
No.
And the proliferation of a small, cute mouse. Because he was in everything for a while.
Yeah,
how about when Battlestar Galactica come around and the manipulation of Bravestar? The Cylon, the large 12-inch Cylon is actually Bravestar. If you actually take his helmet off and look at the suit, the shirt, and everything, it's Bravestar. So they were manipulating everything during that
There
era.
was some recycling going on with a lot of this.
Well, I mean, I don't want to turn this into a giant infomercial for your store, sir, but when we were in there the other day and you were showing me those reaction figures,
They are like Mego. They have something for everybody.
but he's showing me these ones that are definitely, if they hadn't come out beforehand, they were definitely based off the original concept art for Star Wars characters.
Correct.
And I mean, and there's like an entire line of them.
He's talking about Draco Knuckle Duster and Star Killer and some of these new
Oh, yeah.
guys.
Oh, yeah.
Hell-bent bounty hunter.
Yeah,
The knockoff products were sometimes far more hilarious.
and the thing is there's a huge nostalgia for those now, and they've got actual licensed memorabilia from those characters.
They actually created a character line. We always talk about, man, these are the worst figures.
Oh, yeah.
So they came up with, there's now 11 characters that are called the worst. Everything from a floating brain and a psychic robot body to a Medusa witch to even Death himself as a biker.
But you can tell that these are brand new, fully realized versions of those knockoff toys that you got at the Five and Dime or over at the Woolworth.
Oh, yeah.
Because Mom wasn't going to buy you the Batman figure, so you got you got Bat Warrior.
You
who
got
looked more like Spider-Man.
Boy of the Night wearing a cape and roller skates and a fireman hat. And you kind of went, oh, okay.
I got Dark Guy with a cape.
Yeah, dark guy with a cape.
Dark Guy with a cape.
So, and then, of course, we still have a nostalgia for the old radio shows.
Yeah.
And
Well, especially us because we have faces for radio.
we do, but they're still fun to listen to.
Yes.
You can pick on Alice's Restaurant, which makes a return to the airwaves every Thanksgiving-ish.
Okay. Yeah.
Of David Sudeiko's The Santa Claus Diaries has been going on now for 25 years.
Something like that. And of course,
every Halloween they have to replay War of the Worlds.
I do love now though that they give you like all sorts of wonderful disclaimers as you come back from commercial break saying this is a dramatization.
Not really happening. Yeah.
But going back to the thing is I have seen, especially with you, Mr. Robert, with the way that your store set up, you take a very nostalgic look at nostalgia itself. I've seen you light up watching people's faces light up in your store.
I kind of collect the smile. The deer in headlights. We have it measured out to the T. You take 4 steps and stop. Then you stare off into space like Wayne and Garth in Wayne's World, knowing you're not worthy. And as you see the things that you would want to worship, there's always somebody in the corner.
That's the perfect place to say, this is Geek Tank Radio on News Talk 98.9. And we'll be back in a minute.
Geek Tank Radio.
Honestly, I hate working here. They are so weird.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Welcome back to Geek Tank Radio here on News Talk 98.9. And the topic today is nostalgia.
Yes.
Looking back, fond memories. And it's shocking how fast things get old.
Well, absolutely.
Because the original, whatever you want to call it, send your hate mail to Joe. Whatever you want to call it, Star Wars.
Yeah.
That movie, 1977, people.
Yeah.
1977. It's been a minute.
That's the year I was born.
It's been a minute.
I've been around a bit.
Yeah. So welcome to of Mr. Robert and I look at each other and think of all this bad 60s movies.
I'm sitting here thinking I got shoes in the closet odor of Brandon. I got some Converse in there that's lime green. I never wore, but they're in there and they were made in 1976 for school.
Wow.
Well, there you go.
No issues.
So,
Yeah.
but
That's okay. My belt's older than our producer.
Well,
so
But one of the things that I mean, look at technology today. As soon as you think you've got the newest thing, it's already obsolete.
yeah. Absolutely.
Well, I'm starting to feel that we're a little obsolete because we've got in the studio with us a young lady who probably knows more about nostalgia than we do, and she's not even in double digits yet.
No. Go ahead. I'm going to look
All
at
right,
you.
of course.
Run with it, Brandon.
We got Squirt with us from The Adventures of Tadpole and Squirt. And, of course, if you haven't seen her YouTube channel where she unboxes her mini brands and various other things, you totally have to check them out. It is not only informative and exciting, but it's adorable.
It's just
She hits all the markets. So how are you doing today?
Good.
So do you want to tell us about some of your, your favorite things in your store, your nostalgia items?
Sure.
Okay, so I've been in there hundreds of times at this point, and there's a few things that stand out as soon as you walk in the door that if it came down to it, while it may not really cost that much, you wouldn't part with it for $1,000. And it's like we've seen your Billy on his his very vintage tricycle, from Saw. You have your amazing devil dog from Ghostbusters, life size and huge. But I mean, what is it like to kind of grow up around all of this stuff that we were excited about when we were kids, and yet you're still a kid and you're growing up around this. You see it all the time. So what are your thoughts on it? Oh, you're going to get shy on me now?
It's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right, tell me about the. All right, I'm going to cue in on the life-size devil dog. So what do you do with a life-size devil dog from Ghostbusters?
Whatever you want.
Well, there you go.
That's
Anna, why don't you tell us about some of your favorite things in the comic store?
The devil dog. Mostly everything.
Mostly everything. So are you a kaiju fan? Do you like Godzilla and all the big monsters?
Yes.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite one?
No.
No.
So you just love
like
them all.
Yep.
Yeah. I want to tell a little bit of a story. I went in there one day, and she was in there. She was watching TV. And I sat down next to her, and we're watching Creepshow. And so of course she's like, all right, no, we need to see this episode. And she puts on this episode where like all this creepy stuff going on inside a dollhouse is actually happening to the guy in real life. And there's like, but she tells me, it's like, all right, don't worry. It's like, I'm just going to let you know so you don't get scared. And she tells me about the head under the bed. And it's like, I remember, that in and of itself grabbed this nostalgia thing, because that's how I used to watch TV and movies with my mom. Is that, it's like I if I'd seen it before, it's like I get her prepared, because my mom didn't like horror stuff, but she'd watch it with me because, she was my mom. So I'm sitting there and I'm watching Creepshow with Hannah, and she's just she's making sure that I don't get scared, and then she's telling me all sorts of cool stuff that happens in Creepshow, and the various that immediately goes into a spiel about the Creepshow figures and pops that they have and that they went searching for, and it's just. I'll have to tell you, there is no better experience really than kind of hanging out with the kids at the shop. Yeah.
What you think? Well, you get to hang out with him. What's it like hanging out with Brandon?
Very good.
Oh, okay.
You want to talk about opening your mini brands on your show? Huh? Tell them.
So there's many toys and food. And then you have 5 surprises that are mini.
Right.
And how many of them have you gotten so far?
1,000.
You're as bad as Grandpa, aren't you? We got too much stuff.
No.
No.
You're going to buy more?
Yes.
It's just like you got a whole warehouse there, Pops.
Yes.
So tell everybody, y'all need to come see our stuff.
Y'all need to come see our stuff.
It's adorable. All right, so but no, if you don't know anything about mini brands,
Right.
we want to talk about nostalgia and things that connect. Now, you remember what it was like, growing up. There were kids who had you had your shopping carts, you had your stuff like that, so that you could be like mom and dad. Well, many brands takes consumerism to a point of collectability in and of itself. It's not just that I'm going to go shopping for a collectible. It is these things that, were, just your random thing on the shelf. Because I've seen, a couple of your videos, and I've seen some of the stuff you've got at the house or at the shop and everything. And it's like, there's, you buy, like a kiosk or a cashier station or like, the shelving. And then you've got the little brands themselves, and everything you've seen on the shelf, they've got a little version of it. And it just, whether it be food items, laundry items, there's soaps, there's, mops, and then there's the food, it's like, I think it's rude that someone gets a little DiGiorno pizza that's a 1 by 1 inch, collectible, because it just makes you want to go buy an actual DiGiorno pizza.
I think that's the point.
The cool part that nobody has realized that the mini brand extension actually applies to Barbie dolls, because if you check the size comparison,
they're on
the shopping center.
They're on scale with 12-inch dolls.
Size that you always wanted as a kid to put with the Barbie. So now
it's amazing
to bring back the Barbie collectible.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you start to look back. So, the one thing I always try to remind everybody is whatever you see in the store today is going to be somebody's, oh, did you see this?
Yes.
As a very, very lovely British friend of mine goes, was making fun of a steampunk people at a convention.
Because it's an easy mark?
Well, it was an easy mark, and he was just kind of like, oh, you Americans have given this a funny name. Y'all call it steampunk, and you do this and you do that. And he goes, do you know what we call it back home? And I went, I don't know. What do you call it back home? He said, we call it Granny's attic.
Wow.
And I went, your granny has goggles? He goes, we lived through everything. We have everything in those attics. And I was like, I need to go through some attics in London.
Apparently, yeah.
You guys got some cool stuff. Post-apocalyptic
war
prepared. Well, when you begin looking at, and I think they just had another art discovery in an apartment that had been sealed up for the last 70 years. Not too long ago. I'll have to verify that, but I remember seeing an article about it. And, it's shocking when you get to some place like Boston,
right,
or New York, or older cities where that building has been there long enough, you don't know what's in the basement.
True. Now, Mr. Robert, you worked, construction and demolition. Yeah, I'll grab your mic real quick. So
right.
I would, and I know you guys have found some amazing treasures. What was the thing that set you off the most when you were going through one of the demolitions that you were just like, you found it in the wall of an old store or an old house?
I got
or
a better
something?
one. I got a better one. We were called. Now, not only do I do demolition and stuff, I also had a pesky critter removal service that I did with the daycare kids.
Right.
And there is a video somewhere on YouTube that shows this, that we pulled down where the beehive was, and when the secondary wall come down, there was a shoebox with 17 comic books in it, and one of them was the first appearance of Crypto. The second one was the third appearance of Wonder Woman, and they go on from there.
Wow. I just
And needless to say, the
you.
lady said, just take all that stuff with you. Just take the bees. So we got to take all the comics and stuff with us for free just by removing the bees.
My goodness. Well, this is Geek Tank Radio on News Talk 98.9, and we're reminiscing, and we'll be right back.
Geek Tank Radio.
Can't be too careful with all those weirdos around.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And this is Geek Tank Radio on News Talk 98.9. This is Alan Gilbert here with Brandon Olmsted and our special guest today, the amazing Mr. Robert.
And Squirt. You know.
And she who must be obeyed.
Yes,
Squirt.
yes, that's a good title for her. All right. So during this last segment, I want to touch on something, and it goes back to things like Mr. Robert brought up Valley of the Dinosaurs, and I don't know any kid who didn't go through their dinosaur phase.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
And of course Hollywood and toy companies have been able to
Valley of Gwanja, Valley of the Lost.
They've been able to bank on that
dinosaur.
For Jurassic Park, Jurassic Worlds, everything. But I want to go back and I want to talk about those characters, those specific characters that seem to, they have cycles. It's like we can talk about Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman all day long. They never really go out of style. But we talk about things like Scooby-Doo. When did the first Scooby-Doo debut, Mr. Robert? I know you know.
That was early 1960s.
Okay, Scooby-Doo has, in some form or iteration, always been there. But I want to touch base on some of those things that, they come in and then they go out, and then like 5 years later, someone reboots that property, even though it has kind of been dormant for a bit. And it's like one of the ones that I've watched from its first variation until just recently when it had it. I mean, the most recent thing is last month, or not even a whole month ago, had a brand new animated movie. I want to talk about Mortal Kombat. It's like something that. It's like when it first debuted, the violence, the fighting, everything. But Mortal Kombat's been around for, it's one of those that spans my life. I was old enough to remember the first game coming out. And, I think about the stuff that it's, spanned. And, it'll disappear for a minute and people won't talk anything about it. And all of a sudden, boom, there's a new Mortal Kombat thing. Ninja Turtles is the same way. It's like, Ninja Turtles, while the pauses between variations on Ninja Turtles, it definitely, it hits a lot shorter than, say, some of these. What is one of those characters that you liked, I'm asking you guys, that you liked as a kid, a specific character that when you see a young kid like come into the store or come to the convention and they've got like a brand new t-shirt with that character on it and they're talking about this, this new thing and they want to talk to you about it as if there's never been another variation on it, what is the one that surprises you the most that today's modern kid loves that you loved as a kid?
You ready?
Yes.
Sinbad. Had a kid come in the other day with the Sailor Pirate and everything on the shirt from the 2000 series. And he goes, "Do you have anything Sinbad?" And I showed him the Golden Voyage and the Eye of the Tiger. And he goes, "That ain't Sinbad." And I'm like, "No, let me break this all down."
That kid got a lesson that day.
By the time he left, he spent about $80 on the video and 2 or 3 figures. So
right.
we enlightened him that Sinbad is on its 5th generation.
Yeah.
At least.
Sinbad first started in an old silent movie, black and white. And we're talking about way before Errol Flynn and all them. So Sinbad evolved in different generations from nostalgia.
Yeah.
We saw a generation that saw the old silent movies go, "Man, we're going to make it one better." And then in the 3rd generation, you had them step up with Carolyn Monroe and all them. And we had Magic, the stop animation with Harryhausen and all that evolved. And then all of a sudden they did a cartoon from Disney and said, "Oh, this is Sinbad." Now we're all looking at it like, that's not Sinbad. And then we had this HBO special that did Sinbad justice, but it was in the more modern days. So in thinking of that, I'm waiting for 10 more years to pass so we can see Sinbad 2099 maybe, where he floats around in space robbing people. But it'll still be the same nostalgic Sinbad.
I think I'm going to have to go with truly classic literature. Because it's got to be Frankenstein and Dracula.
Okay.
Because they come and go. They get varieties.
Right.
Of everybody goes, well, vampires have never gone out. I'm not talking about vampires. I'm talking.
You're talking about Dracula.
Well, let's get serious. Yeah. I want to see the word Dracula.
Right.
Or I want to see the word Frankenstein. Yeah. grabbed our imagination 100, 150 years ago. And it's almost, it was like when Frankenstein, it's like somebody comes along and they just want a shot at it.
Right.
Even, didn't De Niro do Frankenstein?
Yes.
Even De Niro has done a Frankenstein.
Yeah.
There's been modern Frankensteins. There's been Frankensteins in outer space. There have been Frankensteins, all different kinds, all different styles. Retro, we're getting truly Victorian, or we're going to take him forward in time, or we're going to. But it's almost like everybody gets this urge.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to play, I want a shot at my version of that character.
Right. Kind of like Hugh Jackman playing Van Helsing.
Ties in, and
because he only went after that role because it's something he always wanted to do.
And why not?
Right.
And there's just certain characters. Well, it's like almost anything Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Anything Shakespeare. Because, well, let's face it, Shakespeare covers all the realms.
Who doesn't want to be Puck?
Who doesn't want a shot at a Shakespearean character?
Well, I'm going to go with Puck specifically because he causes trouble. Everybody loves
he does, but there are other characters that you can be turned loose with.
True. But he's one of those that stand out without being the central character.
That's true, because he is the linchpin character.
Yeah.
And why not? Why not that character? Why not play that?
Yeah.
And
I always think, like when we go, like let's go with Sherlock Holmes. I've never wanted to be Sherlock Holmes. I wanted to be Watson. I wanted to be the guy who got to watch all this unfold.
All right, we'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll be happy to be either Moriarty or Holmes.
You're a perfect Moriarty and Holmes, so well, you can do two voices.
Actually, sitting here,
Flash Gordon, another one that keeps coming around,
and you'd be a perfect Ming the Merciless.
Oh, I love playing Ming the Merciless. I've been Ming several times.
Actually, sitting here thinking, we're all talking about the generations of who we would have loved to have been.
Mm-hmm.
And, little Miss Hannah here, several years back, and I didn't realize it till y'all were talking about it, actually has one of her favorites, would be one of the most nostalgic characters that has evolved. Because when she was little, she wanted to grow up and be Godzilla. Right?
Yeah.
I've seen her roar.
Tell him.
I always wanted to be Godzilla when I was littler.
You got a good roar for me?
You roar like Godzilla?
Roar!
Nails it.
But that would definitely be an iconic, nostalgic character because from the day he debuted with Raymond Burr over here, it evolved, and you can see to today in my collection is 36 different versions.
Yeah.
36 to today.
And let's just, while we're talking nostalgia and product, I had an old, what was it, a Shogun Warrior Godzilla, which I have recently, rescued from my dad's attic. And
you had a what again?
A Shogun Warrior's Godzilla.
There you go.
And I rescued it from my dad's attic, and Mr. Roberts got the perfect store for it to be showcased and hopefully find a new home. 2 weeks later, I come into the store, and he has a surprise to show me. And that is the fact that Reaction, who has been, putting out figures along the lines of everything, they're the ones who put out the worst.
Right.
They have put out a miniature version of that Shogun Warrior Godzilla.
And it still sticks its tongue out.
And it still sticks its tongue out and everything. And I'm just sitting there going, it's like, it's my childhood, just smaller. It was
easy
just,
to store.
He could tell you. I sat there just looking at the thing with like the biggest goofy grin on my face for 20 minutes easy.
We love our past.
Yeah.
And
the reminder of a more innocent time in our lives.
And we all kind of grouse about whatever the modern version is.
Yeah.
Well, that's not my whatever it was.
I hate to tell you guys, if the new version of Godzilla ruined your childhood, you might have more issues than just the
you
fact
got other
that
issues.
Let today's generation enjoy their versions.
Because it's their version.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is watching somebody else discover
things that you loved as a kid.
And I have a retro story with a retro story in it.
Okay.
If that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because it involved a record store.
Was it Pop Tunes?
Yes. Well, it was not Pop Tunes. It was Peaches.
Oh.
It was Peaches Records and Tapes, which, of course, immediately seriously dates that time period because Peaches had a what do they call
my parents hadn't even, I was gonna say my
rise and fall.
My parents hadn't even met at that point.
Okay, well, so here's Peaches Records and Tapes, and I'm sitting there flipping through the albums,
right?
And as my phrase at the time, the affectionate gum smacker, aka a couple of younger peoples, right at preteen age,
okay,
are kind of looking over the shoulders. You're flipping through stuff, and one of them goes, "Oh, that's the guy from Wings. I didn't know he was in another band."
You're kidding me.
And that was Paul McCartney. And
you were looking at the Beatles.
The Beatles. And that was my first hint that there is a generational gap. And what's fun, though, now, all these years later, is watching people domino backwards and forwards depending upon where they find this character. So you might be watching the cheesy free TV late night monster movies, and there's a 1964 Godzilla versus King Kong, which is horrifyingly two guys in a suit wrestling. And then you go back and you go forward, and they're all just as endearing.
Well, you bringing up Paul McCartney reminded me 2 years ago, maybe 3. There was this big hubbub online about why was Kanye West giving this old white guy a shot at stardom. And it's like, guys, that's Paul McCartney that Kanye West is working with. Kanye did not discover Paul McCartney. not unless he had a time machine.
Well, speaking of time machines, we're going to hop in the TARDIS and get out of here today because we got to go both to the past and the future. So this is Geek Tank Radio on News Talk 98.9. On behalf of myself, Brandon, and the amazing Mr. Robert, and she who must be obeyed, the wonderful Squirt. Y'all get out there and have a great weekend.